Jundo is a young man who enjoys his life. That's why he chose to do only the things he likes. He plays sports, video games, and doesn't care about money. Because of this, he created a very competitive spirit. He always seeks to win and be the best in whatever he does. One day, while returning from work, he finds two men fighting. One of them looked like a policeman and the other a criminal, when it seemed that things had been solved. The criminal tries to kill him. That is why Jundo is forced to intervene. The criminal attacks him, but he did not know that he practiced several martial arts, so he defeats him easily. That is why the government gives him a recognition. Also, the boss, Kim Min-soo, wanted to talk to him. Since he had great physical skills, the boss proposes him to work with him for a while, since the officer Minjo, whom he saved, would have a month of medical leave. His job is to guard over 5,000 convicts who wear ankle trackers. Many are for murder and rape. That is why they need strong men to prevent these men from committing crimes again. They are known as martial arts agents. Because Jundo was an excellent fighter, the boss man offers him the vacant position for at least 5 weeks. But before anything else, Jundu asks if the job is fun, since he doesn't do anything that he doesn't find fun. Because of this, the boss, Min, tells him that yes, it is very fun and above all rewarding. That's how Jundu becomes a martial arts agent. His friends were very happy for him, and his father tells him that he is proud and happy to see how he is looking for new challenges. The next day was his first day. The job seemed very simple. He only had to monitor that criminals do not leave their designated area and call them, and his anklet runs out of battery. But they are criminals and usually do not ignore them, even more so those who have just left prison. That's why the agents must go personally to remind them the criminal they were supposed to look for had raped a high school girl, so they must be very careful not to let him go. Plus, it turns out that the criminal was about to do his thing again, but thank goodness the Chief Min arrived when the criminal tries to escape. Jundu was waiting for him. Apparently, he was very good at this job, and he seemed to really enjoy what he was doing. But what was really alarming was that most of the criminals in that area had gone to prison for molesting children. And since the laws in Korea are very soft on these criminals, they wanted to continue doing their thing. In the evening, boss Min invites Jundo to dinner, and he tells him to invite his friends too. They are Writer K, Wet, and Worm. The boys ask him why he chose to be a probation officer, and Chief Min answers that when he was 10 years old, he suffered an accident and thought that would be the end of him, but police officers came to save him, and at that moment he realized that he wanted to be like them, but since the accident hurt his hip, that dream could not come true. That is why he chose to be a probation officer, because in this way he could help society by preventing these criminals from reoffending. After dinner, they call him from the station because a criminal had disappeared and the agents should go to look for him, but as he and Jundo were close, they decided that it would be more efficient for them to look for him. When they arrived, the criminal had taken off his tracker, so Wet uses his drone to look for him. When they find him, Jundo goes running to capture him. The criminal was a murderer and wanted to take revenge because one of his supposed friends made fun of him, but luckily Jundu arrives and manages to stop him. But the criminal manages to free himself and threatens to take his own life if he is not left alone. The boss, Min, tries to convince him through Jundo, but the criminal did not want to listen to him. The boss, Min, does not give up, and in the end asks him not to throw away the 20 years he spent in prison, that he better show society that he has really reformed. This makes the criminal reflect and put down his gun. When he got home, Jundo was very happy, but his happiness was ruined when he heard the news. A criminal who abuses girls would be released on parole. The criminal in question had more than 10 prison sentences, and yet he had been granted parole. The next day, Jundo goes to the hairdresser to get a change of look, and on his way to work, he sees a man with an anklet who was harassing a waitress. That's why he decides to watch what state he is in, and gets a big surprise to discover that he was a high-risk criminal. So he asks his boss to go check, but he tells him that first they must call him. When he answers, he tells them that today he will do whatever he wants. That's why they quickly go to arrest him. When they arrive at the bar, the girl who was harassed tells them that she went to another place, and as the hairdresser he was going to was nearby and only worked a woman, thinks she would be the perfect victim. So he runs to save her, but the criminal arrives before and tries to abuse the lady. She tries to defend herself as best she can, but the criminal is stronger. Fortunately, Yundo arrives and manages to rescue her. He wanted to beat him, but fortunately he manages to control himself and arrests him according to the law. For her part, the hairdresser thanks him for arriving on time. When she gets home, her father prepares her breakfast and tells her that she looks happy. He asks her what made him happy when he was her age. His father answers that acting was his greatest passion, and seeing how his work made others happy was his greatest joy and made all his work worthwhile. He also tells him that he can have fun alone, but when his passion reaches others, he will have even more fun and be even happier. That's why he decides to become a permanent martial arts agent. The boss, Min, is very happy because he just needed 2 new agents to watch the dangerous criminal who had been 20 years in prison for abusing more than 15 girls. He was a very tough guy, but Jun-do didn't seem to be afraid of him. When they arrive at the criminal's house, many people were waiting for him to show him their annoyance. At night, another criminal visits him and tells him that the tracker is actually not very accurate, so they can have certain liberties, like smoking. The next day, Jun-do was very anxious because he didn't want Kan Gi-ul to commit another crime, so he prefers to go ahead and follow him, but the criminal had noticed and manages to throw him off. It turns out that he had a meeting with a richer criminal. He proposes to record videos of his crimes to distribute them on the dark web, and for that, he will pay him 100 million won. Kan Gi-ul doesn't think twice since he will be paid for committing his crimes, and also promises him that no one will find out about it. Sometime later, Mino the boy that Jun-do saved is back at work, and as a thank you for saving him, he gives him some tactical gloves. In the afternoon, we see a little girl playing with a puppy, but in an instant she is kidnapped and the shady business had begun, but Kan Gi-ul knew that Jun-do would be a nuisance. So first they must get rid of the probation officers. That's why they lure them into a trap. They use a lower ranked criminal who calls his friends to take down the boss Min and Minno. Both defend themselves as best they can, but they were too many Minno fights fiercely to protect the boss. But in the end he gets a fatal blow to the head, but still he continues to fight until he breathes his last breath. At the same time, Kan Gi-ul leads Jun-do to certain death, or so he thought, but he turned out to be much stronger than they expected, because despite being too many, he managed to defeat them. When he finishes, he calls the boss Min, who doesn't answer him, so he starts to think the worst, but he didn't have time to go looking for him because he knew that the criminal was planning to do something very bad, so he goes to his house, and it turns out that he was about to commit a heinous act. Translated with Deeple.com, free version. Jun-do realizes, and with all his strength he breaks the bars. Inside he finds the criminal, who was very strong and tough. He was not just any criminal. Besides, his accomplice stabs him, so it is very difficult to defeat him. But when he was about to surrender, he sees the girl crying and manages to get his last strength to defeat him. Moments later, the police arrived, and the criminals were forced to flee. The fight had left Jun-do badly wounded, but fortunately for all, would not have serious consequences. His father was very worried, and no longer wanted to continue working in something so dangerous. On the other hand, the boss, Kim, had managed to survive, but he had suffered a fracture in his neck. But for his good luck, he came out of the surgery well. The one who was not so lucky was Min-no, because he ended up losing his life due to the blow to his head. When Jun-do found out, he started to cry because he was a man he respected a lot. Sometime later, the girl's aunt went to see him and thanked him for saving her. The girl had also written him a letter thanking him for rescuing her from that horrible criminal. She had been left with traumas and was very afraid to go out on the street, and at night she could not sleep. But when they told her about the brave man who saved her, she was happy and felt strong. Then she goes to see the boss and tells him what the girl's aunt told her. He replies that he understands perfectly, but he is still hurt, and it is better for the police to take care of capturing the dangerous criminal. But Jun-do was not one of those men who are left with nothing, so when he is discharged, he and his friends start their investigation. This is how they manage to find the man who is behind all this. And when Wet hacks his computer, what he finds there is worse than he expected because he had files of more than 15 years. This means that this man had been committing crimes and marketing the evidence of those crimes on the dark web for more than a decade. And the worst thing is that he didn't seem to feel remorse. For him, it was just another business. That's why Jun-do pokes him in the eye by mistake so they can tell him where his accomplice is. Also, they find out that they had recorded a new video in the last 4 weeks. This makes Jun-do furious, but his friends manage to calm him down. Before going after the criminal, his father tells him that he doesn't agree with him going back to that job, but Jundu tells him that saving the girl made him discover that this is his passion, and he wants to keep doing it so he won't regret it in the future. Besides, right now, there could be another 10-year-old girl scared to death waiting for someone to save her. His father sees his determination and can't do anything else but support him. When they arrive at the place, they begin their search, and when they finally find him, it turns out that he was not alone, but a whole gang of criminals. But even so, Jun-do decides to enter and face them. The criminals make their best effort, but Jun-do was better prepared and manages to defeat them without many problems. But when he realizes the criminal is no longer there, Jun-do finally had his revenge, but he was not at 100% because his wounds had not yet healed completely. The criminal took advantage of this and was about to kill him. Luckily, his friend used his drone to save him. This is how Jun-do managed to have the advantage, and after an arduous fight, he defeated him, and finally he was able to arrest him. Because of his acts of bravery, the president himself gives them a recognition. His father and the boss, Min, were very proud. Also, the girl he had saved finally dared to leave his house and had gone to thank him for catching that bad man. Thanks to that, she can now be calm, and that's how this story ends. Thank you very much for watching the video until the end. If you liked it, do not forget to give, like, and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next story.